I was on Twitter this morning and was reading some quotes and came across one this morning that completely changed my morning, and I scrapped what I was going to say and decided to use this quote as kind of a backdrop for what I want to share with you today. And the quote is by this woman, Anne Lamott. I don't really know much about her, but it was tweeted out that said, "I decided the most revolutionary thing, the most subversive thing that I could do was show up and embrace my life and not be ashamed." And so today I want to talk to you about showing up. If you're an unfaithful, it can be really hard to show up for the life that you find yourself in right now. If you're a betrayed, it can be excruciatingly hard to show up and embrace the life that seemingly out of nowhere has been handed to you and rocked your world. Anyone in recovery will tell you that I think one of the biggest battles that we face is to not retreat in shame or to be ashamed of the life that we're now living. If you're a betrayed spouse, the shame is off the chart because the shame of being willing to stay in a marriage that has been infiltrated by addiction or infidelity is really mind-boggling. I mean, everywhere you go as a betrayed spouse, you feel almost ashamed for what is going on, like you are kind of this marked person that is ashamed of your life. If you're an unfaithful spouse, well, you certainly feel ashamed, and the shame is compounded if a lot of people know about it. God forbid it gets exposed in the media or in your kind of small group or your church or your business. I mean, it can really be difficult to decide to show up and embrace the life that you have found yourself in. Now, I know for me, if I start to kind of retreat back into shame, or if there's a big trigger and I start to feel ashamed, and if I start to kind of hear the voice of shame, the first thing I kind of want to do is hide. I want to retreat, I want to hide, I start to get angry, I start to get defensive, I'm pretty unapproachable by my kids, by Samantha. I start that downhill spiral of not showing up. I find myself retreating, catering to the voice of regret that anybody in recovery feels that hammers me and hammers me and hammers me. It's at that point I feel, and whether you're a betrayed or you're an unfaithful, I think you'll relate to this, it's at that point that I feel incredibly alone. And when I feel incredibly alone, the next kind of step, the next room that I enter, the next kind of wave that comes my way is hopelessness. And if I surrender to hopelessness, man, I am miserable. I don't want to do anything. I want to retreat, go get a nice bottle of bourbon, and just be alone by myself with my shame. And if you too are in recovery, you've probably felt that temptation. It might not be alcohol, it might be something else that's enticing because you are overwhelmed by the shame and you certainly don't want to show up for the life that you have found yourself in. Now, for me, when I do show up, when I do decide to be a revolutionary, when I do decide to be subversive and fight against the machine, if you will, and fight back against the man of shame, if you will, here's what it looks like for me, and I hope if you are an unfaithful that you can maybe grab some things out of this. If you're a betrayed, I also hope that this can bring some truth to you and to your situation, if you will. When I, number one, show up for my life, I find myself very passionate about my life. I'm passionate about my kids, certainly. I'm passionate about doing this and helping people. I'm passionate about talking to those in crisis and encouraging them and uplifting them and really kind of bringing some truth to their situation. I just find that I'm excited about my life. Oddly enough, number two, when I find myself really showing up for my life and embracing my life and not hiding in shame, I find that I'm incredibly kind and gracious to those in crisis, to people that are in my inner circle, certainly to Samantha, to my kids, to people I come in contact with at stores, at restaurants. I mean, I just find that when I'm showing up and when I'm refusing to hide and cower to shame, the outflow of my recovery is kindness and graciousness. And it's as though it starts to flow out of me. And by no means am I just this perfect, kind, gracious person. I'm just saying that when I show up and I resist the shame, man, there's a kindness and appreciation for life that flows out of me. Number three, and this is a real hot button for Samantha, is that when I'm showing up for my life, when I'm resisting shame, I am very patient. Now, I will tell you, inherently, I am not a very patient person. And when my recovery was at its darkest and so not full of momentum, shall we say, I was the most impatient person ever. And even now, if I start to get tired, if I'm hungry, God forbid I get hungry, but if I'm frustrated, man, my patience goes out the window, and it's actually a huge trigger for me. It's a huge trigger for Samantha because it means that mentally I am starting a relaptic behavior, if you will, and look out, I've got to arrest myself or else I'm going to begin to start treating people as speed bumps all over again. Finally, when I'm resisting shame and I'm showing up, I find that I am far more humble, I am far more hopeful. It's when I am willing to say, wait a minute, hold on. And I have to do this often. So don't go thinking that I think I am so far down the road that I am above recovery principles. I live them every day. I have to. It's what recovery looks like. But I'm humble, but I'm hopeful. And what I do is I embrace this life. At the end of the day, listen, who put themselves here? I did. Who blew up their life? I did. Who ruined almost everything? I did. Who was the one that pulled the ripcord and completely threw their life into chaos and upheaval and completely wrecked our lives? Me. I am the one that put myself here, and I have learned how to embrace it, and embracing it actually helps counteract shame and says, no, 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 shame, I'm not going to let you imprison me. Yes, I blew it. Yes, I can be a train wreck. Yes, 11 years ago, I devastated my family, my spouse, and literally thousands of people that were in my life. But you know what? I can be a revolutionary and embrace what I did and resist shame and live in light of what I'm capable of apart from the grace of God, and I can fight back shame and I can be hopeful for my past. God is not done with me. My life is not over. I have been given a second chance and I can embrace it and I can fight back against shame.